Welcome to the Soulful CXO. I am your host, Dr. Rebecca Wynn. We are pleased to have with us Jane Frankland. She is a popular keynote speaker, board advisor, university guest lecturer, and she regularly shares her expertise in iconic world media outlets. She believes the world will only become safer, happier, and more prosperous when more women are in male dominated industries. That's why she authored her best selling book, Insecurity. Wikipedia and LinkedIn recognize her as a top voice, and UNESCO has called her a trailblazing woman in technology. She is following her passion to make women in cybersecurity a standard, not an exception. Jane, it's great to see you again, and welcome to the show.
Amazing. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm so happy to be here.
Can you explain how you started out when you first went to university? Technology wasn't even on the radar. How did that journey go?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I was following my passion, which was art and design. I have a degree in woven textile design. And so what happened to me was my parents always said, do what you love, do what you're good at. And I was very arty. So that's what I chose to do. And was doing really well as a designer. Continued working as a designer for a little while, and I got an agent selling work all around the world. I was showing in some amazing galleries, but the money wasn't really coming in. So for me, I was a single parent and I needed to make a decision. I needed to make a change and get a proper job. I went straight into building a business in technology and specializing in security, information security, IT security, which is what it was called then. But that's really how my career and my entry into happened.
How did you choose technology? What leads you on that journey? Because there's a lot of different fields out there.
I even love this. It was actually love. I got a new boyfriend and fell in love. He was in technology and he said to me after I got this sales job, I was doing really well. I never saw myself as a salesperson because I'm an introvert. And it was the last thing that I wanted to do, but I didn't recognize I had been selling my artwork when I was trooping around the galleries saying, we show my work. That was selling. And when I did various other things in order to go away on holiday with a boyfriend, that was still selling. So I was good at solving problems and I could sell. When I met this guy, he was in tech. He was director at a company, but he wanted to start a new company. He said, "Shall we do this?" I was looking for a new challenge. That's how it happened and how I said yes. I didn't know anything about technology. I would actually say I was certainly at that time a mega Luddite. I had all the tech that was handed down to me by my brother. I got into technology, and the two areas that interested me were AI, which was far too new in 1997. That was too new. The other was security, and security was emerging. Security was feasible. You could build a business with security, or you certainly could lead with that in those days. So that's how I ended up doing what I do.
Amazing, because if you think back there, the late 1990s and 2000, cybersecurity is not the cybersecurity of 2023. So how did you go about even starting to learn about a field that was very young during that period?
I really just did what I'd always done. I learned how to communicate. I learned a language, some of the terms, and I served. I never pretended to be something I wasn't. I listened well. I knew how to sell in a consultative manner. I knew what our company's strengths were, and I knew the vision that we had for the company. So I sold on that great customer service and what the client wanted. I knew our market and what our clients wanted. So I just went out to serve. I didn't need to be technical. What I did need to do was to go and ask questions and to get answers for my clients and to be able to make sure that they were getting a really high level of service, because that's what my penetration testing company was all about. We were highly flexible. We were so good at what we did. And for me, that's just how I dealt with it.
And what you brought up a few times now is about really listening to the customer and trying to meet those needs. How should we take more responsibility as cyber leaders to do a better job on getting those great partnerships that can be with us 3 years, 5 years, and 7 years down the road versus one and done every year?
Yeah, it's got to be built on relationships, hasn't it? So it's the biggest kind of, because for me, it is all about the long term. It's not about the short term. And it is about building relationship. It's about knowing exactly what you want. How can I be of service to you? And how can I be of service to myself as well? So say if I was working with a client, it was I was evaluating them. Do I actually want to work with them as well as they were evaluating me? And I think when it comes to vendors, it has to be the same thing. It's got to be a win. You've got to be able to get the service that you require from that vendor. And you've got to be in partnership with them. And I do see it in that way. It is about being in partnership and getting a win for both parties.
Yeah, and for me, it's similar almost when you're interviewing a company, right? Finding out about the company, finding out about the roadmap, finding about what their strengths and their weaknesses are, and are they going to be adding value to you because that's what you need? And the same with when you're going ahead and you're looking for vendors for your company, what value add are they adding into their company, and are they going to be there for long term? I see them very close. Is that how you view them too? I tell people I think they're along the same streams, and people are failing to do that on both ends, vendor management as well as career management.
You know, trust comes into it, doesn't it? Do I trust this company? Do I trust this salesperson? And the team, trust is everything. When I dealt with vendors through my consultancy, my first company in security, and certainly as a pen testing company, a lot of those partnerships fell through due to trust, which was disappointing. Nowadays, when I'm working with vendors, I can do so from an influencer perspective. So I want to be really clear on what the company does. What are their values? Do I believe them? Do they have integrity? I need to make sure that their values align with mine, to really care about who they're serving and to deliver top-notch service and to show integrity and to be trusted.
I look at their churn ratio for security, privacy, or compliance teams. I see how quickly the executives are churning over. I think people forget about that. It's not only about the product. Is that company still going to be in business tomorrow or the next day? Or are they looking to be sold to another company? So what areas do you look at during vendor management versus is it just going to meet my need, features, benefits? Does it meet my dollar cost? When we talk about those other intrinsic things, what should our audience be looking for?
They've got to look at those things. But the other thing that I naturally look at, I really want to see what their diversity, because that's just so important to me.
And another way is to look at what they're posting like on LinkedIn, what things along those lines do they think is really important to them. I think you can use LinkedIn or other posts and articles. Because I found some companies, I'm like, what you say to me in the sales meeting and what you're posting as a company does not line up, and it doesn't line up with who we're presenting ourselves as a company. I've had to drop those vendors. Have you seen that as well too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what you get. Often there's an awful lot of virtue signaling. So there's nothing that beats asking around. So when it comes to your peers, how have you found them? What's the quality of the service like? What's the team like? Do they actually practice what they preach? So yeah, I always ask around.
And you mentioned about looking at diversity of the company and really the leadership as well too. There's some companies who think if you are not 40, you're not going to be hired, or if you don't have a college degree, we're not even going to look about how many years that you've really put into the school of hard knocks and self-education.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not seeing it improve. I'm tired of us being in the same situation that we were when I wrote my book. And I wrote that book in 2016, published in 2017. I'm very frustrated because I don't see much change. I am seeing women being more visible, which is great. That's fantastic. I am seeing them speaking out more. I'm seeing them writing more. So I'm seeing them doing more and being more visible, which is great for my careers. But I'm not seeing companies do anything at all. If they are actually doing something, it will be getting a woman in to speak. And usually they're asking that woman to come in and speak for free. The changes we need aren't happening because other things are more important to them. Most of the leaders are guys and they are busy doing other things and they're not a woman. So they just, even when they've got daughters and even when they believe in it, they can't ever know what it feels like to be a woman. Other priorities are just taking preference for them. And I don't blame them for that at all because the situation for us in cybersecurity is really tough at the moment. It's so tough. The levels of burnout are absolutely huge. I spoke to someone the other day. He was working his weekend. He was going to he was going to have to travel on Sunday. He'd had a heart attack earlier in the year. The company he was working at had hiring freezers. He was working in a small team. They'd lost 4 people. They couldn't recruit and they'd won more business. So his working manner, that the hours were huge and there was no solution. It's really tough out there.
What do you think the solution is for burnout? We keep getting shifted left, trying to become chief as part of the suite, the suite light. And now we're pretty much allowed places where suite non-existent. And they really want a security engineer or network engineer or even desktop engineer to be a CISO. And I find that, one, I think more breaches are going to happen of that. But of course, they're going to get burned out. And then, like you said, if you end up having a seasoned CISO come in, then you find out I joined a job one time and then immediately they said, we just let 17 of your people go. And I would say, what? I didn't have those skill sets. And then I had to pick up the slack. I think we're not getting positioned right as a viable department and being critical. It's going back to almost like 2015 all of a sudden and attitudes.
It's almost like we've got the title, but we don't have
Cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't. We're not getting that seat at the table, which affects our jobs, doesn't it? Because those decisions are being made without us being there to influence anything. And then we have to execute. But yeah, so it's really tough for C-levels, for CISOs right now. And the only way I think for change to occur is by CISOs actually doing 2 things. They can step up and they can learn to communicate more effectively. And the other thing that they can do is push back. It's that not tolerating, which a lot of them are doing. A lot of them are leaving. I read that piece from Gartner and it said 25% of CISOs would be leaving the industry in the next 2 years. Over 50% would be changing jobs. That didn't surprise me because the changing of jobs is consistent. They don't stay in a job very long.
I think 25 is way understated, especially from all the interviews I've conducted this year. It's probably more around 43%. And I think part of the reason for that is I call it the great bait and switch. You go through the interview, you speak with all the leaders, get all the support, then you come in and then you're finding out that now they want you to be a security engineer or network engineer, or we want you to do the firewall. I'm not saying that you can't help out at points, but you're finding out that what you were thought you're going to be able to do strategically and tactically and being able to do hiring and stuff like that, it's not there. And that's, I think reason why a lot of people are leaving too. We're finding that over and over again. And I think part of the reason is when you look at SOC 2 and PCI and all stuff, they say thou must have a person called CISO, but they're not defining that role. And if they would start defining that role, that would give us more teeth. How do you feel about that, about these regulations, stuff like that, supporting us so then we're not to water down?
Absolutely. Anything that can help us right now. We need help, support, because we're not getting it. So I think it's time to revolt
I wish we could strike. Could we have a CISO strike? I don't want
Yeah.
anybody's data to be breached, but in concept.
I wish we had a union, a trade union where we had a body that could lobby for us because we really need it.
I think the one thing that we can do, and I do, is I walk away from a bad situation. I do go ahead and say no when I find out that there is a bait and switch. There is a company out there who will value you. Being able to say no, there is a better opportunity out there. If more people say no to the cut down in the industry, that would help. But some argue I do need the paycheck.
That's why money management comes in. Squirrel a bit away for a rainy day when you need it, because then it gives you options. The other thing that I see is are people who want to move into that CISO role, and they're prepared to take one of those lousy CISO jobs just to get the title, and then they'll do it and then use it as a hopping stone to the next, hopefully better CISO role. But it's tricky because aspiring CISOs who might be prepared to do that and take it, which doesn't help existing CISOs who are not prepared to take that job with the responsibilities and the way that it's laid down. So it's difficult, and I can't see how that can change actually.
More breaches are going to happen because they're hiring less experienced people. It's better to go ahead and hire a really experienced person than maybe bring a person who has the heart and soul and the background and stuff like that to maybe be a deputy and train up.
Yeah, quite frankly, I can't understand anyone wanting it to be a CISO. To me, it's like, why would you want to be a CISO? Oh my God, that's a tough gig. Yeah, talk about pressure. But some people do, and we need them. Go for it. It's a hell of a job right now.
So our time, unfortunately, is running short. Jane, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks, Rebecca.